Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like something's off? Not on the outside, but deep within? Like you should be further along, more respected, more grounded. But somehow, people still treat you like you don't matter? It's not because you lack potential. It's because there are certain habits quietly sabotaging your image. Habits that tell the world you don't respect yourself. So why should they? The Stoics believe that self-respect is the foundation of all respect. That before you earn it from others, you have to live it from within. But most people never see the small, destructive behaviors that erode their dignity day by day. In this video, we'll break down 5 specific habits that kill your credibility and rob you of the respect you deserve. And we'll show you how to cut them out for good using Stoic wisdom that's still brutally relevant today. If you're serious about rising above mediocrity and earning real respect, not just attention, then like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's rebuild from the inside out.
Number 1.
Always making excuses. Excuses are the most seductive form of self-destruction. They sound innocent, reasonable even, but each one is a quiet surrender. A subtle whisper that says, I'm not responsible. And here's the truth. No one can respect you, not even yourself, when you constantly hand away your power like that. Every excuse you make chips away at the foundation of your dignity, and eventually there's nothing left but a fragile shell of what you could have been. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Epictetus, a man born into slavery with no wealth, no freedom, and a crippled body, had every external reason to make excuses. But he refused. Instead, he taught that freedom isn't about your circumstances, it's about your mindset. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Summarizing, that sentence is a declaration. It means no more explaining why you couldn't. No more stories. Just action. Just ownership. Because the truth is, when you make excuses, you announce to the world, and worse, to your own soul, that you're not in control. That life is just something that happens to you. The job fell through. The partner left. The time wasn't right. The motivation wasn't there. But the Stoic doesn't speak like that. Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome during plagues, wars, and betrayal. Yet not once in his meditations did he complain. Not once did he say, I couldn't because... Instead, he wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That is the essence of Stoicism. To recognize that while you cannot control everything, you are always responsible for how you meet what life throws at you. Making excuses is a denial of that power. It's a rejection of your own strength. And when people hear you constantly explaining, constantly blaming, they don't see someone unlucky. They see someone unreliable, someone weak, someone they can't count on. Think about it. Who do you respect more? The person who owns their mistake and says, that was my fault, I'll fix it? Or the one who spends 10 minutes explaining why it wasn't really their fault? The answer is obvious. Because respect is drawn to strength, and strength comes from ownership. Even in modern times, we see this lived out. Jocko Willink, the former Navy SEAL, built an entire philosophy around this. Extreme ownership, he calls it. If a mission fails under his watch, he doesn't blame the team, the weather, or the enemy. He looks inward and asks, what did I do wrong? And that's what earns trust. That's what earns respect. Not perfection, but accountability. Now imagine someone on the opposite path. Someone who always has a reason. Every missed deadline is because of someone else. Every lost opportunity is someone else's fault. They're late because of traffic, unprepared because of poor communication, failing because of circumstances. What do you feel when you hear them speak? Frustration? Doubt when you want to. Maybe even pity, but not respect. Never respect. And the worst part, the real damage isn't even external. It's internal. Every time you make an excuse, your subconscious hears it. And it believes you. It starts to build your identity around that belief. I'm not capable. I'm not lucky. I'm not enough. Once you start believing those lies, you begin living them. Not because life is stacked against you, but because you've stopped fighting for ownership of it. The Stoics would call this a failure of reason, the very tool that makes us human. To be ruled by circumstance instead of choice is to become a slave to fortune. But to own your decisions, even your failures, that is freedom. That is self-respect. Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." But if you blame the friction, if you reject the trial, you stay dull, unshaped, and untrusted. So how do you start breaking this habit? First, catch yourself. The moment you feel that impulse to explain why you couldn't, pause. Ask, what part of this do I control? Even if it's just 5%, take that part. Name it. Own it. Say, I didn't plan well. Or I didn't prioritize this. Order, not because you want to punish yourself, but because you're training your mind to see truth over comfort. Second, speak from strength. Shift your language. Don't say, I didn't have time. Say, I didn't make this a priority. And it stings, but it's honest. And that honesty builds a deeper kind of confidence. One rooted in clarity, not excuses. And third, stay consistent. Don't just take ownership once and go back to old habits. Make it your identity. Let people associate your name with accountability. Let them know that if you fall, you own it. If you fail, you grow. That's how respect is built, quietly, daily, and without apology. So let this be the first toxic habit you eliminate. Stop justifying failure. Stop defending weakness. Stop explaining. Start owning. Let your actions speak. Let your discipline rise. And watch how quickly the world begins to see you, not as someone who needs respect, but as someone who commands it without a word.
Number 2.
Being lazy. Laziness isn't just a lack of movement. It's a quiet betrayal of your own potential. It's a slow decay that hides under comfort, disguised as rest, disguised as waiting for the right time. But make no mistake, laziness is the most expensive choice you can make. Because while you sit still, time doesn't, opportunities don't, the respect you crave doesn't, the world keeps moving, and the gap between who you are and who you could be grows wider every day. The Stoics viewed idleness not as relaxation, but as a form of moral failure. Seneca warned, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." He wasn't just talking about procrastination, he was talking about spiritual erosion. Because laziness isn't neutral, it actively corrodes your sense of discipline, dulls your drive, and makes it harder to respect yourself. And when you can't respect yourself, neither will anyone else. Laziness tells a story even when you don't speak. It radiates through your posture, your eyes, your habits. People can feel when you've let go of yourself. And worse, so can you. That internal erosion shows up everywhere. You start negotiating with your goals. I'll start tomorrow. I deserve a break. I'm not ready yet. But every time you postpone action, you delay growth. And with every delay, you teach your mind that it's okay to live beneath your standards. The Stoics believed that work, intentional, focused effort, was a sacred part of living in accordance with nature. Marcus Aurelius didn't hide from responsibility. He faced it every day, writing, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being." That one sentence destroys the modern excuse that motivation is required. Marcus didn't wait to feel ready. He didn't complain. He got up because that's what a disciplined man does. That's what a leader does. In today's world, laziness is often masked by endless distraction. We scroll, we binge, we overthink, but activity isn't productivity. The Stoics warned against busyness that leads nowhere. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Sure. Why? Because growth requires action, and action makes you vulnerable. You might fail, you might fall short, but the man who sits still to avoid discomfort is already failing. He's failing quietly, invisibly, and with certainty. Contrast that with someone who is relentless in their effort. Think of someone like David Goggins. He doesn't speak in comfort. He doesn't wait for inspiration. His life is a direct refutation of laziness. Every mile he runs, every workout he completes, every limit he shatters is a message. I will not waste the life I've been given. Watch that stoicism in action, living with urgency, with clarity, and without excuse. And whether you admire his intensity or not, one thing is clear. You respect the discipline because it's rare. And rarity commands attention. Now ask yourself honestly, have you become addicted to ease? Do you spend more time consuming than creating? Do you escape into entertainment when you should be investing in your own potential? If so, the first thing you need to reclaim is your relationship with effort. Because effort is not optional. It is the price of self-respect. Here's the deeper problem. Laziness lies to you. It tells you you're tired when you're just uninspired. It tells you to rest when you haven't even earned fatigue. And worst of all, it promises that tomorrow will be better, easier, more convenient. But tomorrow is just another name for the graveyard of potential. The only day you have is today. The only moment you control is now. And the Stoics knew that delay is the enemy of destiny. So what can you do? Start small, but start now. Get up earlier. Clean your space. Finish the task you've been avoiding. Make movement your default. Don't wait to feel like it. Train yourself to do it anyway. Because every time you act despite the resistance, you break the chains of laziness. You teach your body who's in charge. And that repeated message, that you decide what gets done, not your mood. That's where discipline begins. Then go deeper. Set clear goals, not vague wishes, and pursue them with urgency, not anxiety. Be ruthless with your time. Audit your distractions. Remove what doesn't serve your mission. Build a rhythm that honors your potential, not your comfort zone. That rhythm, repeated daily, becomes momentum. And momentum is what transforms respect from a wish into a reality. And finally, embody what the Stoics believed, that your work is a form of service, not just to others, but to yourself. Every task done with focus sharpens your mind. Every goal met with discipline strengthens your soul. Laziness makes life smaller. Discipline makes life deeper. So if you want to be respected by others and by the man in the mirror, then kill the part of you that clings to comfort. Burn it down. Replace it with movement, with grit, with action. Because in the end, people don't admire what you say you're going to do. They admire what you actually do, especially when no one's watching.
Number 3.
Neglecting your personal appearance. It's easy to dismiss appearance as superficial. In a world obsessed with image, many swing the other way and claim that how you look doesn't matter, that what counts is who you are on the inside. But here's a harsh Stoic truth. How you present yourself is a reflection of who you are on the inside. Your appearance is not about vanity, it's about self-respect. And the moment you stop caring for how you show up physically, you begin sending a quiet but powerful message to yourself and to the world that you've stopped taking yourself seriously. Marcus Aurelius, though emperor of Rome, wore simple robes and lived a life of restraint. But even in his simplicity, he carried himself with intention. He wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But your thoughts are also influenced by how you see yourself in the mirror each morning. Discipline isn't just in your mind. It shows in your posture, your hygiene, your dress, your routine. Neglecting appearance isn't humility. It's often a disguise for apathy, insecurity, or worse, self-abandonment. Seneca warned against both extravagance and sloppiness. He believed that neglecting your outer self reflects a lack of order within. Let your clothes be simple, he said, but let them be clean. The principle is clear. You don't need luxury, but you do need care. Because self-respect is revealed not through expensive items, but through visible effort. When you look in the mirror and see someone who tried, someone who paid attention, you walk differently. You speak with more certainty. That's not arrogance. It was awesome. That's alignment. And make no mistake, people are watching. Before you speak, before you act, the world observes how you carry yourself. Are you groomed? Are you alert? Are you present? These cues communicate discipline or disorder before a word ever leaves your mouth. And while it's noble to believe we shouldn't judge based on appearances, reality says otherwise. People associate how you present with how you think. If your appearance says, "I don't care," why should anyone care to listen to you? Now, some confuse this with conforming to trends or chasing beauty standards. That's not what the Stoics taught. They didn't preach attractiveness. They preached integrity. And part of that integrity is caring for what is within your control. You can't control your genetics, but you can control whether you show up rested, clean, dressed with intention, and ready to meet the world with your best. Your appearance is your first act of communication. It says, "This is how seriously I take myself." Think of someone like General George Washington. He was known for his restraint, but also for his impeccable appearance, even during wartime. Not because he was vain, but because he understood something timeless. Leaders are seen before they are heard. And what people see influences how they receive you. A man who shows care for himself is often trusted to care for others. That's how respect is built. Through the details, through the discipline, through the quiet message of presentation. And there's a deeper layer. Your personal appearance affects how you feel. Ever noticed how a fresh haircut, clean clothes, or a straight posture shifts your state of mind? That's not coincidence. That's biology. Your physical state influences your emotional clarity. When you look sharp, you think sharper. When you stand tall, you speak with more power. Stoicism is not about rejecting the body. It's about aligning it with reason. And reason says, take care of what you've been given. Unfortunately, neglect often begins in silence. You stop shaving. You skip workouts, so you wear what's convenient. It starts as fatigue. Then it becomes habit. Then it becomes identity. But identity is not fixed. It's built. And it's rebuilt every morning you decide to show up with intention instead of indifference. So what can you do? Begin by treating your appearance as an extension of your values. Not for show, not for applause, but for personal order. Lay out your clothes the night before. Groom yourself not to impress, but to express discipline. Move your body daily, not for aesthetics, but for energy. Make eye contact. Practice posture. Speak clearly. These small rituals become anchors. And anchors build presence. And presence earns respect. Also, declutter your environment. The way you maintain your space reflects the way you maintain your mind. As Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. If you want to be respected, start with how you show up. That's within your control. Every time. Lastly, remember that how you appear is not about perfection. It's about precision. Are you precise with your grooming? With your breath? With your handshake? These tiny disciplines communicate volumes. The man who sharpens the blade each day is not waiting for battle. He is ready for it. And readiness is a form of power. People respect that. So don't fall for the lie that says looks don't matter. What matters is what your appearance represents. And if it represents discipline, clarity, and effort, you'll never need to beg for respect. You'll become the kind of person who commands it silently, one intentional detail at a time.
Number 4.
Ignoring boundaries. One of the most overlooked reasons people lose respect, both from others and from themselves, is the failure to enforce clear boundaries. The Stoics understood this deeply. If you don't protect your time, your energy, your values, someone else will use them for their own ends. Respect is not only about how you treat others, it's about what you tolerate. And if you tolerate everything, you stand for nothing. Epictetus warned, keep your will in harmony with nature. And nature teaches us that every living thing has limits. The tree bends but does not break. The animal defends its territory. Water flows, but it also cuts through stone when ignored. Human beings are no different. You were not designed to be endlessly available, agreeable, or adaptable. Without boundaries, your life becomes a playground for other people's agendas, and your dignity slowly erodes with every yes you didn't mean. The modern world doesn't respect people who have no limits. It consumes them. It pulls them into endless obligations, notifications, requests, favors, gossip, and distractions. And the worst part, most people let it happen out of guilt, out of fear, out of conditioning that says being nice is more important than being clear. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. It is far more noble to be just than to be liked. It is far more powerful to say no with conviction than yes with resentment. Seneca wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving." Ephraim. But how can you do either if your boundaries are so porous that anyone can drain your energy or hijack your time? To be selective is not arrogance, it is wisdom. Because every time you allow something into your life that doesn't align with your values, you push out something that does. Let's take a historical example. Marcus Aurelius was an emperor, a father, a general, and a philosopher. His life was surrounded by pressure, chaos, and noise. And yet within that storm, he carved out time for stillness. In Meditations, he writes, "People try to get away from it all, but you can escape to yourself anytime you like." That wasn't escapism, it was self-defense. He didn't run away from duty, but he drew a line around his inner peace and guarded it. That line, that limit, that was a boundary. Do you guard yours? Or have you allowed your boundaries to be crossed so many times that even you forget where they once stood? Ask yourself honestly, do you respond to messages at all hours, afraid that silence will offend? Do you say yes to favors that drain you just to avoid temporary discomfort? Do you keep company with people who mock your growth just because confrontation is awkward? These aren't signs of compassion. They're signs of quiet self-betrayal. And every time you betray yourself, the world learns to do the same. But the Stoics knew this. If you don't define your standards, life will. And life doesn't always have your best interest in mind. So they practiced disciplina, the ancient Roman ideal of self-rule. Because the man who governs himself is not easily governed by others. And the one who protects his space, his time, and his soul doesn't just earn respect. He commands it. So what does boundary setting look like in practice? First, recognize that boundaries are not about rejection. They are about direction. They help you move toward what matters and away from what doesn't. They aren't walls, they're filters. And you control the gate. That's not cruelty. That's responsibility. Your time is limited. Your peace is earned. Your energy is sacred. Protect it like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Start with your time. Choose when you are available and when you are unreachable. Communicate those windows. Defend them with calm certainty. When people push, don't explain, repeat. When they disrespect it twice, make space. When they do it 3 times, remove access. Not with anger, with clarity. Next, look at your relationships. Who drains you? Who respects you? Who plays with your limits and calls it just joking? Set the tone. Say, I don't allow that kind of language. Say, I'm not available then. Say, I'm not comfortable with this dynamic anymore. Then pause. Let the silence carry weight. That stillness, that unshaken calm, is the mark of someone who knows their value. And finally, inspect your internal boundaries. How often do you let toxic thoughts run wild through your mind? Do you allow guilt, regret, or resentment to camp in your consciousness rent-free? Epictetus said, "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them." So train your mind to observe, to redirect, to guard. Don't let random thoughts have free rein. Establish a mental gate and return to it daily. In the end, boundaries are not about distance. They are about alignment. When you enforce them, you stop betraying yourself just to keep the peace. And in doing so, you create real peace from the inside out. A man who honors his boundaries doesn't need to demand respect. His very presence makes it clear, This is who I am. This is what I allow. And this is what I will never compromise.
Number 5.
Taking credit for others' work. Few habits destroy trust faster and more quietly than taking credit for what isn't yours. At first glance, it might seem small, a slight exaggeration in a meeting, a moment of silence when someone praises you for something a team member did, a subtle omission of who helped you get there. But beneath that silence is a loud betrayal, and the Stoics would be the first to call it what it is, a failure of character. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world during his time, could have taken all the glory for Rome's victories, reforms, and resilience. Yet in Meditations, he constantly credited others, his mentors, his parents, his teachers, his peers. He wrote an entire section listing what he learned from each person, naming names and honoring their contributions. Why? Because he understood a fundamental Stoic truth. To accept credit for another's work is to live dishonestly, and no one respects dishonesty for long. Seneca put it even more directly. He who is too busy to do good deeds wants to take credit for those done by others. The Stoics didn't admire image. They admired substance, and if your reputation is built on someone else's labor, it may rise quickly, but it will collapse under the weight of truth. Because eventually people know, and when they do, respect is replaced with resentment. Admiration becomes avoidance. In modern life, this behavior shows up in subtle ways. In group projects, where one person does the work and another takes the applause. In workplace politics, where managers highlight only their own leadership and forget to credit the execution of the team. Even in friendships where one borrows ideas, words, or insights without acknowledgement. It may feel like a shortcut to recognition, but it's actually a detour away from self-respect. And make no mistake, your soul keeps score. Even when others don't see the theft, you do. And every time you benefit from another's effort without giving due credit, you trade a piece of your integrity for temporary applause. That applause may feel good in the moment, but inside, you know you didn't earn it. And that knowing eats away at you. Slowly, quietly, deeply. The Stoics taught that virtue is the highest good. Not praise, not reward, not image. Virtue worse, and integrity, living in alignment with truth, is central to that virtue. When you take credit unfairly, you drift from that alignment. You become performative instead of principled, reactive instead of reliable, and the people around you, whether consciously or not, begin to withdraw their trust. But here's the paradox. The more you share credit, the more respect you earn. People admire those who lift others up. They remember the leader who says, "That was Sarah's idea." So, they trust the man who says, "I couldn't have done this without my team." Because that kind of honesty is rare, and rarity commands attention. Take the example of Admiral William McRaven, the Navy SEAL who led the operation to capture Osama bin Laden. When praised for the mission's success, he deflected attention to the operators, the planners, the intelligence officers. He said, "I didn't do it. The guys on the ground did it." Shunnam, that humility didn't make him seem weak. It made him a legend. Because real strength is never afraid to share the light. So why do people steal credit? Often it comes from insecurity, from the fear that your contributions alone aren't enough, from the worry that if you don't take every ounce of recognition, someone else will rise faster. But that fear is rooted in scarcity. Stoicism rejects scarcity. It teaches that your worth comes from who you are, not what people think. And if you truly live that belief, you don't need to grasp at glory. You create value and let your actions speak. And if someone else shines brighter in a moment, let them. Be glad to be in the company of excellence. As Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Because self-improvement requires humility, and humility says, I'd rather grow in silence than win through deception. So what's the Stoic way forward? Start with vigilance. Catch yourself in those subtle moments. When praise arrives that isn't fully yours, don't bask in it. Redirected. That wasn't all me. That idea came from John. We worked on it together. None. Those statements don't diminish you. They elevate you. They tell people you are secure, fair, and honest. Then take it deeper. Go out of your way to credit others. In meetings, in relationships, in conversations, make it a habit to name the unseen hands. Shine light on the invisible effort. Because when you make a habit of lifting others, you become someone people want to support. Someone they'll follow. Someone they'll respect. Not for what you take, but for what you give. And finally ask yourself, if no one ever knew I contributed, would I still do the work? If the answer is yes, you're walking the Stoic path. If not, it's time to adjust. Because the man who needs applause to act is still a slave to opinion. But the man who acts from principle, that man is free. Respect isn't earned through words. It's earned through discipline. Every excuse you stop making, every moment of laziness you overcome, every time you show up with intention instead of neglect, you're building a version of yourself that commands respect without asking for it. The Stoics didn't chase recognition. They lived in alignment with their values, and respect followed. If this video reminded you of the kind of person you're capable of becoming, take the next step. Like this video, subscribe. And most importantly, eliminate what weakens you. The more you align with strength, the less you'll ever need to ask for respect.